Wednesday, which means one thing. It is time for the third cup of coffee, Nico. Is that correct?
That is correct, my man. Anytime that I got to talk to the hardest working man in the South, I got to get my coffee so I can keep up, man. I can't do it.
No, Jason's the hardest working man in the South. He's far harder working than I am, but I will take the compliment and run with it. I will run. Just get me my 10 feet on first down, and give me my 10 feet on second down, my 10 feet on third down. That's a first down. We move the sticks. That's what I'll take.
I
Just
like it.
give me 3 1/3 yards each time out, and we're good to go. But I wanted to start this week with what happened with Seattle out west. Obviously, awful news for both fans and team about an injury and now an absence as you're chasing a playoff spot in the West.
Yeah, that's the biggest set of news and the biggest upset for any fan that wants the Sounders to do great. So everybody is just upset and sad about this huge loss. As you perhaps saw me say on Twitter, it highly decreases the chances of Seattle Sounders getting to the playoffs. He is a key component. He is a high motor player with a high IQ that you just can't replace. So, yes, Christian Roldan has undergone growing surgery essentially, and he will be out 4 to 6 weeks. However, he could very well miss most, if not all, of the regular season. You have to figure out the recovery. He is someone that is obviously very motivated and in great physical condition. So you're hoping that he makes that 4 to 6 week mark. But he's just a key component, man. I was very shocked to hear about everything happening. Especially, I was a little frustrated just because I had asked Brian Smetzer constantly. You could see it in his play during the Univision broadcast. I mentioned it 3 or 4 times. Christian just did not look like the Christian that we've all known, just by the way he was striking the ball, the way he was moving. Just something was not quite there. He seems like that it was athletic pubalgia injury. Yeah, so that's kind of what was going on. Basically, a sports hernia, and now he gets that taken care of. Brian Smetzer talked about it, said that obviously he was okay with him getting the surgery because he just wasn't getting any better. And, they thought he was going to get better. It just didn't happen. And now you have a guy that has been the most consistent guy that you've had since 2016. Averaging, I don't know, about 3,000 minutes per season. Someone that was the CCL assist leader for this team. So it's just a huge loss in all accounts for this team.
So how do you see the lineup /18 shaking out now with this injury being added to the stacks? And, you're coming off a 3-3 result with LAG and how things are right now in the West. Is you're 1 point out of the playoffs, but you've played one more match than the Galaxy right now. How do you think the lineup shakes itself out now?
I think that from here on out, we're going to see a 3 center back lineup. So whether it's a 3-5-2 or the house formation that they like to run at times, this is going to obligate Seattle to become a heavier counter team. They're going to have to make things difficult for other teams and go off a old Colombian coach, Maturana, that you probably have no idea who he is, but he used to say it's not about winning, it's about just gaining points. So if you got to draw and just hold on to a tie, you just got to try to gain points. And that's what's going to be for this Seattle Sounders team. So with the 3-5-2, you're having a Nuhu that can, possibly do a lot for you defensively along Yeimar and Javier Arriaga. And then that midfield, both of your wing backs are going to have to do a lot of work to give you width. And Albert Rusnak is going to have to amplify his game. Danny Leyva seems to be the guy that has earned a spot right next to or nearby in vicinity to Albert Rusnak, depending on how they move that lineup. And then you're going to have to be clinical up top. Raul Ruidiaz, Jordan Morris are going to have to step it up and not miss one chance on goal, because this Seattle team is going to need an unnatural effort to win games and get to the playoffs.
Well, and Maturana, if memory serves, he was the head coach of the Colombian national team during the '94 World Cup, if memory serves, right?
That is correct. I am impressed. Yes, that was him. He was the guy that just was all about moving the ball horizontally rather than vertically, and was very conservative. That was not our best World Cup there. That's for sure. We thought we had it. We thought we had it in the bag, and it did not go that route.
Yeah, no, and by the way, sidebar: the two Escobars, one of the 30 for 30s that aired on the Four Letter Network. One of the two Escobars is one of the best 30 for 30s out there when it comes to understanding that particular chase for the World Cup back in the early to mid 1990s and '94 World Cup that was here in the United States. So if you haven't seen the two Escobars, watch the two Escobars. Tremendous work done there with that particular 30 for 30. And when you mentioned Maturana, I was like, wait a minute, I think I remember that one. But yeah, okay. So you mentioned teams chasing after it. Let's get your perspective on Atlanta United. And right now, Atlanta United still a part of the gaggle from 5th to 13th. Folks have matches in hand. On others, crew have 2 matches in hand on as many folks around them as possible. So when you look at Atlanta United, they ended up having to, they got a draw with Columbus last time out after the loss to Red Bulls. But once again, we talk about it a lot, sadly, is that pro seems to be more of a focus across the board. It was, again, for Atlanta United in their 2-2 draw. It had to be a hard-fought uphill draw, which should have probably been a lot more in Atlanta United's favor. Your thoughts right now on Atlanta United, 5 points out of a playoff spot with 8 matches to go?
They still have a chance, and they get the Appalachian State of MLS here this weekend. So, can they score 4 or 5, help their goal differential? But all in all, Atlanta just continues to be such an inconsistent team that shows you quality for just moments and lapses of the game, and then there's huge mistakes in the back and lack of attention and just allow Columbus to get back in this game. Also lack of just finishing, to be quite frank. So their inability to manage games has been a bit surprising for me. That's something that I think Gonzalo would emphasize on, and I'm not sure if it's the youth, not the youth, I'm sorry, the young group that's leading this, or the fact that pieces are still trying to kind of coexist together because he hasn't been able to put a constant lineup out there. But whatever it is, I still would not put him out of the playoffs, because this is the team that in any given moment can just start up, but you got to fix that. There's no excuses for giving up a game like that, regardless of you having a monster and an assassin like Cucho just all over the field. You just should be better than that.
Well, and I'll go with choice D, all of the above, when it comes to what you're looking at least from my perspective, because you have the young players who have been put in these situations where you have 20 injuries on a 37 individual roster, and then they're being brought in to be right there from absolute zero. They've got to be ready from the absolute jump, and then trying to integrate the players that were injured once they're healthy, and then you're trying to figure out communication and the idea of just feel as opposed to think. And you and I both know that going by just feeling something, and that organic nature is far different than having to go out there and having to think and process. And you can almost see 11s, regardless if we're talking about Atlanta United, but you can almost see the difference when you're watching a match of a team that just feels and acts and goes forward versus a team that's having to think or is thinking and trying to process information instead of just doing things. I feel like Yoda, just don't think, and that we're seeing a lot of teams out there thinking right now when they should be just going ahead and letting it flow organically.
100%. There is. I completely agree with everything you just said. It makes a whole difference when you're just working almost out of memory. You know, when things are just clicking for absolutely everybody. But once again, there are so many positives. Sosa having that banger is great for a player that I had such high hopes for in this league.
Yep.
It just hasn't been able to put it out there. Purata just seems to be a guy that always stands the back of the net when this team needs it. I think he's been a breath of just fresh air for this lineup, and he's looked good right next to Alan Franco. So there's just so many good things about this team. It's just about putting it together. So once again, having DC United this weekend and just getting some momentum out of that is going to be key. Now, if you go over here and you fumble the ball with this gimmick game, we'll be talking something quite different next week, because there's no excuse to go and drop the ball against an awful, awful team like DC United.
And they got to turn around and go to Chester, meaning Atlanta United, in the midweek. So you've got to take care of your business even more amplified on Sunday afternoon. Let's go back into the week that was. And you mentioned Philadelphia going up against App State United, putting 6 on the board at a minus 103. CF Montreal, soon to be Impact, probably, hopefully. Let me stop on that one. Georgi Mihailovic to AZ Alkmaar. What do you think? $6 million. Good piece of business for CFM.
Great piece of business for the club. Good piece of business for the player. He's going to be able to have a lot of exposure, and he is a stud. Quite honestly, he'll be loaned back so he could finish his business here, obviously, for a team that is a title contender. And I'm just excited to watch him and see how he's going to adjust his game to a whole new league, and sometimes the pressure of being in Europe can really get to a player. I don't think this is the case. He seems to be a guy with a great head on his shoulders, beyond all the athletics and the soccer IQs and everything that we've loved out of what we thought at one point before Zaruzzi just took over an MVP candidate. So yeah, I just think it's a fantastic move for everyone involved, including the league, that just continues to put great talent out there.
Minnesota beats Austin in Minnesota at a plus 108 by the score of 2-1. Inter Miami at DRVP and K knocks off Toronto. I guess the basic thing is here, Toronto's on the road, so go against them. It just in general, it seems. And we took, and the under actually happened at a 2-1 win. San Jose beats LAFC. There's talking points with them where Brian Rodriguez finally goes to Liga MX. That opens the door for other players. Mamadou Fall is loaned overseas to Europe. Does Sifu follow suit with a week to go in the window and head to Brighton? Questions with LAFC.
They better not. I'll tell you right now, they better not. If LAFC lets go of Cifuentes, none of these guys that they're bringing in, and no one in that roster can do what Cifuentes can do, and it's going to be a huge mistake, and you'll see this team decline in their ability to win games without him. And I'm saying that right now. I don't want to hear about Cristian Tello, who is a substitute or has been a substitute in Spain for the last 4 seasons. Get out of here. Don't overhype this man. Do not overhype this man. Like, come on. And everything that LAFC is doing and changing up, to me, just is a call for look what I can do. Look the way we could bend the rules, and look at all this talent that we have. But at the end of the day, they're going to end up with a whole bunch of nothing. You can quote me on this. I am telling you right now, if Cifuentes goes away, this team will struggle in the last part of the season, for one, and two, they're going to end up with a big bunch of nothing in the playoffs.
I agree with you, because I think that there is something to be said for change, and then change for the sake of being able to do it, to sit there and say, hey, look what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between change for the positive and change for the sake of change. And it seems like the more that LAFC is sitting there on the Princess Cruise line and sitting there and rearranging deck chairs and sitting there going, hey, no, let's move this chair here. Let's move this chair here. I don't like this table, so let's get rid of this table and bring in another table. It's too much movement late in the year as you're getting close to the close of the window and the playoff push, where you are number one, but I think that there's too much. It's something to be said for too much change.
And I love the fact that they lost to San Jose just to slow the roll for all of the media that's just, oh my God, let's turn on the candles right under the temple for this just God team. I mean, come on, man. There's too much going on with this team and all the hype that they're getting. To me, it's they're gonna end up crashing and burning. And I'm gonna be able to say, I told you so. This San Jose game was the perfect example of when you have too much talent and you're making way too many moves, and you get a team that is not cohesive. And you go on the other end, a Covello squad that was hungry, that Tommy Thompson just completely tore that team apart. I think they got out-coached, outclassed. It was just a great thing to watch. I mean, I loved it. Call me a LAFC hater. I do not care. I enjoyed that game, and we'll see what happens in this beautiful, beautiful Friday that I'm sure we're going to talk about here in a second.
Oh, yeah, we are. Sporting has found their offense with the transactions that were made early in the window. Peter Vermes was looking forward to bringing in the players that he's brought in. For the second match in a row, they've scored 3 in the first half, knock off Portland 4-1, which I think really damages Portland when it comes to looking at the postseason. And then Nashville chose offense for some strange reason, put 4 in the back of the net hosting Dallas. So those are the only 2 that I have left on the board with that. You want to go to cliffhanger?
Let's go to cliffhanger, because, I mean, we're not going to get too far.
I know. 8 o'clock Eastern at Q2, Austin and LAFC to start things off. LAFC is a road favorite at a plus 129. Austin is a home dog at plus 175. Then Cascadia, 10 o'clock, and the juice box purveyors have basically just thrown a blanket over the whole thing and said, you pick. Both hanging around plus 155. Portland at Providence Park, and your covering of the Seattle Sounders.
Yep. So let's talk about both. No Elias Sanchez for LAFC in this one. That's a big one for me. He's a guy that gives that team a lot of balance, a lot of vision, despite him having a game in which he came in and just, I don't know, he lost it and gets thrown out. But he's a very important player for this team. The good thing for LAFC is that the visiting side has won 3 out of the 4 last meetings between both of them. That doesn't mean literally squat for this one, but I think this is going to be an offensive game. I think I've been pretty good about this one, so take the over on it if you guys are thinking about the juice boxes. And it's going to be a battle of DeRusi and the rest of this Austin attack that is going to take on a team that, as we saw against San Jose, can be very open. And I really want to see Shalini in this one. I would love to see Shalini and just get torn up in the best possible way by a very quick transition team. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting. Once again, let's not take anything away from these teams. It is the game to watch when it comes to talent and the top of the table and the storylines of what we want to see. Yes, Austin lost to a red-hot Minnesota team, but at the end of the day, they have a lot of quality. The Ruti is going to give you 90 minutes of just good effort. So LAFC is going to have to work hard to get a result at Q2.
Looking at your numbers, your total at plus 2.5 is a minus 210. 3.5 takes you to a plus 119, and this is when it starts to get interesting. 3.5 at plus 119. 4 over under a 4 is a plus 206. 4.5 is a plus 265. So that's when the fun starts, when you get to the total of 4 at a plus 206.
I'll take that 4.5.
Okay.
I'll put some money on that 4.5. Absolutely.
Okay.
Hey, we hit it on that LA Galaxy Sounders game. I mean, we hit it right off the button, right, with the 6 over there.
Yep.
Which takes us to our next game, right? Biggest rivalry in MLS, all the stakes in the table. You could not think of a better situation for these teams to meet. Uh, there has been a bit of a odd data or an odd little nugget about their rivalry lately is that the away team just seems to win, right?
Yeah.
Came here during CCL Banner Day and completely beat Seattle, and we talked about the lack of character and all the things that went wrong in that one. So Seattle wants to do it right, but now they go in with having a draw that kind of felt like a loss, and then the Christian Roldan thing. Timbers on their side, they're also coming in from a bad loss, so it's going to be interesting how these two teams take the field. But at Providence Park, with Gio and his fiery self, and with a Brian Smetzer that is going to want to really out coach Savarese, it's just going to be fun. It's going to be played in the midfield, which worries me a little bit just because there's a lot of experience and talent in that Timbers midfield, but it's going to be a good one. I see this one being a very low scoring game, by the way.
Okay.
So take the under on this one.
All right. Saturday, Minnesota hosting Houston, Charlotte hosting Toronto FC, Red Bulls hosting Inter Miami, Cincinnati, hell is real. Cincinnati hosting at TQL, Columbus Crew. Right now, FC Cincinnati's the home favorite at a plus 114. Crew are at a plus 211. That's an interesting one. Philadelphia, yeah, I know. Philadelphia at home in Chester hosting the Rapids. Chicago hosting CF Montreal. Sporting on a roll at home. A minus side as the Earthquakes visit town. Dallas and RSL, Vancouver and Nashville. So Nashville, after choosing offense last week against FC Dallas, has to go from one end of the planet to the other to take on Vancouver at BC Place in MLS After Dark to end your Saturday night.
Yeah, a couple of good ones here. Let's go by real quick. Inter Miami against Red Bulls is a good one. You're talking about a Miami team that just has found out how to win. They're not out of any game when they're behind on the score. They don't seem to worry. They know they got the talent to do so. They're coming from a very good win, surprising win. And you're really talking about, what, fourth and sixth in this one, right? So,
yeah.
Again, when it comes to points, I am intrigued on how this Inter Miami team will play a difficult to break down New York Red Bull squad.
Yep.
So big game here. Pozuelo is going to have to do a lot, kind of find those spaces in between lines. So it's going to be a good game without a doubt. And then FC Dallas, Real Salt Lake, also a lot at stake in this one. When it comes to points, when it comes to that playoff run, FC Dallas just dominated last week by Nashville, which just says a lot about the inconsistencies that they have showed us all season long. And in Nashville team that just has belief, and I think Dax McCarty did a fantastic job just not calling out his team necessarily like the way that Joseph did at one point, but he did it differently. I can't explain it. There was just a lot of tact on how he did it, and the team just came out of play. Now, are they the fighting Mokhtars? Sure, absolutely. They absolutely depend on what Honey Mukhtar is going to do every single game, but that doesn't mean that defensively with Zimmerman and Lovitz and more, Dax, dropping back, they just know how to win certain games, and it could be important for this squad to just start to gain some points. But the team in question here continues to be FC Dallas, all the talent in the world. Sebastian Lletget now on the team. It just, they seem to have no answers on how to use all of this team, all of this talent, and they're starting to drop the ball, man. I would get concerned if Real Salt Lake, who I think will win this game, beats them. How much more can this team just drop in morale and whenever you lose these many games and you have the inability to find a squad, it can really break down your locker room. So I really want to know how a new coach is going to handle that situation.
At a plus 272, you're looking at Real Salt Lake going up against FC Dallas. All right, that's one that you've stepped out. That is definitely one of the more further ones that you have stepped out on recently. We'll keep an eye on that one. Now, remember, after the weekend, we have a handful of matches in the midweek, so there's going to be some interesting turnarounds for some of these teams. Sunday, we talked about App State United and Atlanta United. We have Orlando City against NYCFC. I'm worried about NYC. I really am. Mm-hmm. And the Revs hosting LAG is MLS After Dusk on Sunday night. In the midweek, Atlanta United has to turn around and go to Chester to take on Philadelphia. LAFC goes to Houston, Colorado to Nashville, Portland to Austin. So Portland, after Cascadia, has to turn around, and on basically 3.5 days rest, they have to go to Q2. And then RSL at home takes on Minnesota United. RSL traditionally at Rio Tinto, very, very tough there. So 5 more games in the midweek that could turn things around. Yeah,
man. I mean, this is just a battle for just about everyone, right? I mean, you're going from El Clasico, the derby between Seattle and Timbers, and Seattle has to travel across the entire country to go against an Orlando team that has ups and downs, but that they're gonna, make it difficult for you at home. And honestly, the depth of Seattle right now is being absolutely tested. So difficult for Brian Smetzer and company to just figure out how they're gonna play this game. And then Portland, same so, right? Austin, red hot. Perhaps coming from a big win against LAFC, that's difficult. That's difficult to do.
All right, time for the plug, the blatant plug, and any other plugs that you would like to make. What is going on in your universe? Do we get any more? TV appearances from you in the recent future?
I hope so. The next game that Univision will do is actually a very good game in September 10th, which is Austin, Seattle. I would be very excited. It would be a wonderful birthday present for my birthday is on the 16th of September, so it would be great to call that game because there's going to be a lot riding on that game with a lot of quality players. I mean, that would be fantastic.
And what else is going on at Pulso Sports these days, and what else is going on in the universe that is known as Niko Moreno?
Yes. No, Pulso Sports this week, obviously, with El Clasico coming up between Portland and Seattle, is going to be all about that game. What happened, videos from the fans and the on the road ECS. I love to see those. So we're going to be getting a lot of videos from a lot of fans and followers of our Pulso Sports. And I'm going to put something together just to show what that derby was like there this Friday. I would love to be there. However, I cannot be. But I'm going to get a lot of videos and images of that and give you the best possible breakdown of this Portland-Seattle game.
What he said. El Rolo NW from Pulso Sports. It is our weekly visit, this time on his third cup of coffee. Niko Moreno hanging out with us here at SDH. Niko, my friend, thanks as always. It's great to catch up. We will catch up with you next week where some teams have played twice, and we'll have an idea as we get closer and closer to the playoff picture. Thanks for hanging out, my friend.
No problem. Thank you for having me.